Welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast where we talk about the real work of education, the human work, the life work, the work that shapes futures long after the bell rings. I am your host, Franchesca Thompson, and today we're doing something a little different. We talk a lot on this show about how you show up for your students. But today, we're talking about how you show up for yourself. Because here's the truth, no one puts on a lesson plan. You cannot regulate a classroom full of kids if your own body is running on empty. So today, we're talking heart health, sleep, stress, and movement with someone who studies hearts for a living. Here's a stat that should stop every educator in their tracks. Research out of Penn State found that teachers' cortisol patterns, the body's stress hormones, actually shift measurably worse over the course of a school year and only begin to recover during summer break. Chronic stress like that doesn't just make you tired. Over time, it raises your blood pressure, it strains the cardiovascular system, and quietly increases the risk of heart disease. And sleep isn't a separate issue. It is now officially part of the same conversation. In 2022, the American Heart Association added sleep as the eighth pillar of heart health, right alongside diet, exercise, and blood pressure. So today isn't a lecture about eating more kale. We're not doing that. It's about what actually is happening inside your body and what small, doable things you can do today to change it. Today, I am honored to be joined by Dr. Annie Tedga, a pediatric cardiologist, founder of the Heart of Rapha Pediatric Cardiology, and someone who spends her days thinking about hearts, big and small. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tega. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you so much for having me here. How are
Yeah,
you?
good. I saw what you were doing on Instagram and it is just amazing. So I'm going to make sure that is in the show notes. Y'all have to follow uh her Instagram account because she gives you some good tips. One thing that stood out to me is a video I saw you eating a midnight snack or something, and you were cooking eggplants. And I said, "Oh my God, that looks so good." And I'm like, if it was my midnight snack, it would be a ham and cheese sandwich,
Oh my
which is
God.
not good. Okay. So I said, I have to do better. Have you always eaten that way?
Believe it or not, I have a 1-year-old, right?
Uh-huh.
And during my third pregnancy, I actually gained 55 pounds.
Oh, okay. I get
Yes, I gained
it.
55 pounds. I was skinny before, and there I go, third trimester. I'm not skinny anymore because, a lot happened. I used to get very sick, and
Mhm.
I stopped working. I was on bed rest essentially, and I took the bed rest really seriously. Like I
Yeah.
stopped moving around, and I was drinking these Gatorades, like these bottles of Gatorades, like 3 to 4 a day because I was
Oh, wow.
puking so much and I wanted to
Got
stay
it.
hydrated. So all that sugar and just being sedentary, not moving around, not being on my feet, um, I packed on those pounds. And after my delivery, my having my baby, I just knew it was time, and I ran to the gym and started working out at 6 weeks postpartum. Believe it or not,
Really? So
started working
now,
out.
so now that's part of your routine, right?
Yes, yes. I try to keep the weight off, and don't mind me. Like I'm not always that good. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm not always eating eggplants, okay?
It
I
looked good
try to
though.
be good. The one time that I'm good, I'm gonna document it and I'm gonna post on Instagram. But
Yeah.
that's not that's not me on the daily. But I
Yeah.
do try to keep a balance. I do try to get my fruits and vegetables in, and I
Mhm.
do try to cut back on the carbs. And when I do that consistently, I see results. So
Yeah, carbs is just oof. That's the one thing that's hard to give up sometime, but you do see results when you cut it out. I know that for
Yeah.
a fact.
Yeah, you
So,
gotta cut back on the rice and the
yeah, oh
bread
my
most
God. And I just
likely.
had rice for dinner. My goodness. But I am going for a walk right after we record. So I'm gonna get
There you
my
go.
cardio in.
There you go.
Well, we're here today to talk about heart health, and you see heart at both end of the spectrums, the ones you're monitoring in the clinic and the tiny ones you're treating in cardiology. Why should educators know and understand and hear about heart health?
So I think educators are in a very special position.
Hmm.
I think when I see a child that is referred for a heart problem, when the
Hmm.
first signs were actually noticed at school, such as
Mm.
getting unusually tired during PE, struggling to keep up with classmates, or repeatedly complaining of chest pain or dizziness,
Yeah,
this, makes me think of teachers, right?
yeah,
Because these observations can seem small, but sometimes they're the first clue that a child
something's
needs a
going on.
closer look.
Yeah.
So I do see kids whose hearts are physically healthy, right?
Hmm.
Um, but are already showing effects of obesity, high blood pressure, and abnormal cholesterol at a very young age. So that's
Hmm.
when I think educators need to hear this. This
Hmm.
heart health starts long before adulthood, and
Yeah.
teachers are often on the front line, are often the first people that can notice these changes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And so, and when we think about teachers noticing the changes in their students, we also want to get to the other side of that with teachers noticing the changes within themselves. Because
Correct.
most people picture heart disease as something that shows up in your 50s. I hope not.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's what people think, and it shows up out of nowhere. But you'd argue that the story actually starts decades early in classrooms
Correct.
and stress and sleepless nights. Where does that story really begin whenever people finally do say, I have a heart issue? It didn't start just the other day, right? It was some history to that. So what have you noticed or seen?
I think that the patterns that are established during childhood and
Mm-hmm.
adolescence, such as nutrition, physical activity, sleep, chronic stress, or exposure to these things, obesity,
Yeah.
blood pressure, cholesterol, or even exposure to tobacco or vaping can influence cardiovascular risk decades later. And
Mm-hmm.
and and that's why these things matter, because your environment shapes your upbringing and the way you get to see the world. So as
Yeah.
growing up, what your parents do and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and what you see done around you shapes your behaviors and also your lifestyle. So these things start in childhood or as
Yeah.
early as that. Like, we're now seeing even in studies that the plaques that we're seeing in our blood vessels is to start forming during childhood. So I
Mm.
think that the conversation is changing right now, because these things don't start at 50. A heart attack does not start at 50, but
Nope.
the habits and the cardiovascular modifications has long been established in childhood.
And I'm so a believer of that. And your habits as a child, they pour into who you become as an adult. And I was the latchkey kid, and I had two working parents. And one of the things that my generation grew up with was the microwave.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, and them
Mm-hmm.
microwave meals was
Mm-hmm.
stacked in the freezer, okay? Because
Correct.
we didn't know if mom was gonna get home. Pretty much she was able to get home and cook, but if she wasn't, we had to, and I know those were not, the best for us. But I actually just, with that was something that I had to make sure as an adult with my own family. We've got to eat fresh fruit and vegetables. We've got to cook the meals, even if we food prep and just try to get that stuff so that the kids, I even made my children their own baby food. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just really,
Oh,
really
nice.
important to me to make sure
Mm-hmm.
I establish some really good healthy habits when I started my family, you know.
Yeah, and I also think that the encouraging part, um, we don't think about that a lot too, because
Mhm.
a 10-year-old with hypertension or a significantly elevated cholesterol, or a child with obesity who already has metabolic risk factors may seem perfectly fine
Yeah.
when you see them, but these children grow up to be adults with a heart attack. So
Mhm.
even us as kids growing up and being in these environments when we're not eating healthy, our parents may not have known better back then,
Yeah.
but we definitely do now, and we
Yeah.
are better equipped. We have the knowledge to do better, not only for ourselves but for our kids, so that when they grow up they have better chances at being healthy
Yeah.
and having less risk factors for cardiovascular disease.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the American Heart Association added sleep as an official pillar of heart health in 2022. Why did this earn a seat next to diet and exercise?
Well, because we learned that sleep isn't just rest.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of cardiovascular medicine.
Mm,
So when the American Heart Association updated its cardiovascular health framework in 2022,
mm-hmm.
sleep was added as the eighth component because the evidence increasingly showed that sleep duration is independently associated with cardiovascular health. So what do I mean by that? Sleep is when the cardiovascular system, the heart, and the surrounding system, blood vessels, right? That's what we
Mm.
refer as a cardiovascular system. So, sleep is when this system gets the opportunity to recover, to
Wow.
rest. So, our heart rate and our blood pressure normally would decrease when we are sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not, like kids who don't chronically get enough sleep, studies have shown have higher blood pressures, obesity, insulin resistance, poorer dietary choices, and risk factors for heart disease when they're older. It's the same thing for adults, right? So we need to sleep so that the heart can rest, recover, and perform better. If we
Yeah.
don't sleep, then think of the heart just being working overtime and predisposing us to high blood pressure in the future. And with high blood pressure, obviously comes other issues, which just put us or predispose us to higher and higher morbidity and death, which we don't want
Yeah.
to talk about in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I know it's just, but you know what? Are they still recommending the 8 hours or is it,
7 to 9 hours.
oh my God. Okay.
Yeah,
Look,
7 to 9 hours.
I know I'm not getting that. And so that is not good. And my thing is, I can sleep. It's just that I just can't stay asleep. And
Hmm.
I will wake up, and I'll move here, and I'll go back to sleep again, and I'll go there, and at this old age, it's pains here and pains there that wake me up out of my sleep. And so I've got to get this together. That's one of my goals this year, even though the year is almost over with, is to get my sleep habits together for
How long
sure.
does it take you to go back to sleep?
Well, it depends. If I'm really tired, I go immediately, but like last night, woke up, probably stayed up an extra hour, and then uh went back to sleep. And then I had to get then the alarm went off, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta go to work. Uh
So you
so
probably need to go to bed earlier then, like sooner. Because
I
if
probably
collectively you're getting 7 hours throughout the night, in spite of waking up and all that, you still be fine.
oh, then that's good to know. Maybe I need to try that for
Hmm.
sure. So for someone who's been running on five, look, this is just what we talk about, 5 or 6 hours a night for years and insist that they're functioning fine. What is
Mhm.
actually, you just talked about it, what was happening to the cardiovascular system. So my next question is this: what's one realistic first step for an educator who can't just go to bed early because they have all of these things on their mind, their grading paper, their parenting, their lesson planning, their social media? All of that things, all of those things. What can they do?
Well, here's what I'll say. Don't start by chasing 8 perfect hours.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start by, wanting to get the perfect 9 hours. Start by protecting 30 minutes. Start with that. Start with
Yeah.
something as simple as, okay, how do I go to bed 30 minutes earlier?
Yeah.
And try to consistently reclaim those 30 minutes for sleep and work on that. That might mean, setting a firm stopping time for grading, preparing tomorrow's essential earlier in the evening. Just find one non essential task that can wait so that you gain 30 minutes and apply that towards your sleep.
Yeah.
I think that's, that might be more feasible and
Yeah.
realistic for teachers because sleep isn't supposed to be a reward that you get after everything else is finished. It's supposed to be part of what allows you to do everything else well. So if you
Mhm.
prioritize that and you start with something as little as 30 minutes, if you can't do 30 minutes, then do 20 minutes and work your way up from there.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get into movement. There's a study that found a single 30-minute workout changed how teachers' bodies responded to a stress test that same day. What's going on there physiologically?
Yeah, so if you think about movement is so it's putting your heart to work. When the American Heart Association recommends 150 hours of vigorous activity of moderate activity per week or
Yeah.
two separate days of 75 so that's because you want the heart to move.
Mm-hmm.
And that essentially helps you to get the adrenaline and all those hormones to get get your heart to move, and then you can recover after that, and that also helps you to perform better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do want to increase your heart rate up to a certain level, and that's what exercising generally does. It
Mm-hmm.
resets, if that makes sense, it resets your activity thermostat. In a study that showed that that tested mental capacity before taking a test and after taking exercise, they noticed that people were able to respond to stress at lower blood pressures and heart rates. And that's because exercise comes in and just kind of helps you reset
Mm-hmm.
your ability to respond at these um, blood pressure and heart rate modalities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only with exercise and it's only with movement that that happens. So
Okay.
essentially, you're becoming more adaptable and you're able to function better when
Yeah.
you move.
And yeah, and I make sure every day I get in some form of movement. I feel like this year I need to challenge myself a little bit because I've been doing the same thing. So I've definitely been increasing my miles and started a little weightlifting, but I'm just trying to because heart issues run in my family, and I'm just like, oh God, every time I hear another story, I'm running to the gym. So so I'm just like, what do I need to do? So it's good to know that, I think for teachers, I think sometimes they feel like they're too busy to implement a working out into their schedule. But I say take care of yourself now so that when you get to the time where you're retiring, you don't have to have someone else take care of you. So, do things that are going to benefit you later on in life. implement those things now. I think sometimes we wait and we wait and we wait, and then waiting becomes too late. I've talked to so many educators who don't have a self-care routine after work. And the reason is they're busy. They're like, I got to do my lesson plans, I got to grade. Put that down and do 15 minutes on the treadmill or walk around in your driveway. I think it's very important for you to just establish some type of self-care workout routine at least 3 to 4 days a week,
Yeah, and I think
regardless of those lesson plans.
yeah. One more thing that I wanted to add to is like sometimes the expectations need to be clear by moving or by doing some kind of workout,
Mhm.
the exercise itself is not going to remove the stressful situation, right? Like you're still going to be stressed, you're still going to have the papers you're still going to have those you're still going to have the class scheduled to prepare the next day, but it does help your body, it does change how your body respond to stress.
Mhm.
So in one study, teachers did about 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, and when the researchers stressed them mentally afterwards, like I earlier mentioned, the blood pressure response was lower. So with because you are exercising or because you're moving, you're essentially giving your body a chance, like to succeed
Mhm.
when they meet the next stressor, because they are being equipped with these physiologic changes that exercise is providing to you. So you're essentially equipping your body to handle stress better,
Yeah,
and I feel like everybody needs that.
needs that for sure. So if there was something that if teacher for the teachers that are listening, I had three things, but I was like, three is just going to be too many things. So I narrowed it down to two. I took one thing
Okay.
away. So if they had to
Okay.
do two things this month, what would those two things be to better their heart health?
Two things. So first, I would protect my sleep if
Hmm.
I were a teacher. And like I said earlier, don't aim for perfection. Don't aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep overnight if you can. Just
Hmm.
start by reclaiming the 30 minutes a night. And the second thing, move every day.
Every day.
If you don't have 30 minutes, give me 10. Take a brisk walk around the school, use the stairs, walk during lunch, just do something intentionally to raise your heart rate.
Yeah.
Something is better than nothing, and consistency obviously matters in
Yeah.
this.
And those
I was
stairs
going
at
to
the
say a
school.
third one too, but
Go
but
ahead.
you
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 can
took
go
that
ahead and
away.
say the third one.
So the third one I would say is know your numbers.
Mm.
Know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol levels, know your blood sugar levels, know your family history, because heart disease can develop silently, and feeling well doesn't necessarily mean that everything is well. So you have to go see the doctor and make sure that you know these numbers and know what to do with
Yeah. So on that, look, I need to go find out my numbers then.
them.
Because look, I'm glad you put in the three things because I would not have even thought about that. So that you work with kids a lot, and so you treat kids' hearts pretty much every day. What is one thing you wish every parent understood about heart health starting in childhood, not adulthood?
Yeah, well, one thing I wish every parent understood is that we're not just raising healthy kids. We're raising future adults, and that their cardiovascular story is already being written. So, like you mentioned, we often think of heart disease beginning at 40 or 50, but some of the foundations are already being laid during childhood. High blood pressure, abnormal cholesterol, obesity, poor sleep, and all these things that we've been talking about, these definitely appear years before someone even develops actual cardiovascular disease. Now, the good news is that childhood gives us an incredible opportunity to intervene early. So we can definitely, with the information that we have, we can normalize movement, protect sleep, introduce nutritious foods, understand family history and how that affects us, and with that, make preventive care part of growing up, not
Mhm.
something that you start after receiving a diagnosis.
Mm, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, great conversation, Dr. Tedga. I'm glad that you were able to take the time out to talk to us today. And I want to kind of end it on a rapid fire kind of note. Rapid fire is at the end of the segments. I give you a this or that, and you tell me which one you're going with. And just to learn a little bit about you and just to learn a little bit about the topic today. So, are
Okay.
you ready for our rapid fire?
I sure am.
Okay, here we go. First one, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. Why
Mm-hmm.
tea?
Green tea.
Green tea. Okay, green tea. And so tea is your go-to every morning?
It's not that it's my go. I mean, coffee gives me palpitations.
Yeah,
So I don't like having palpitations. So
yeah,
I'll go with the safer option.
tea,
So tea
tea.
and
I
green
love
tea.
it.
Green tea is good.
It's good. I'm trying to get into the tea. So I'm a coffee drinker, but I bought some tea recently. It's sitting in the tea drawer, but I'm gonna have some tea tonight.
Okay.
All right. Best stress reliever that isn't exercise.
Hmm. Slow, intentional breathing. Like
Mm,
taking deep breaths.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
my dissertation is on, mindful
Mm-hmm.
breathing. So yes, I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Yeah, I like that one because you don't even need to leave your desk. You don't even need to leave anything. Just close
Mm-mm.
your eyes and just start taking deep breaths,
Right.
and it works magic. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. One heart health myth you wish would just disappear.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it over and over in this program. I think thinking that heart disease is an old person's disease, right?
Hmm.
I wish people would just stop thinking that, because the reality is that groundwork for cardiovascular disease can begin in childhood and young adulthood.
Yeah.
So I often say your first symptom shouldn't be your first warning. It's
Mm,
not, it's not about, so heart health isn't something we start protecting at 50. It's something we build from childhood and we maintain it for life.
hmm. I love it.
Yep.
Well, that's the show. Is there anything else you want to add? I'm going to make sure they have your Instagram and everything. You got anything you're working on?
Well, I'm always working on stuff, but
Stuff.
because our audience is made of teachers,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to go ahead and say that I want teachers to remember that you guys spend so much of your life taking care of others,
Yeah.
people's children,
Mm-hmm.
shaping their futures and pouring into who they will become.
Mm-hmm.
So your health deserves that same care.
Yeah,
You
it
don't
does.
need to completely overhaul your life tomorrow. Just do little things, just little steps at a time. Protect
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more sleep. Take a 10-minute walk. Know your blood pressure. Take 60 seconds before classes to breathe and reset. It's creating small habits today that your heart will thank you for years from now.
Yeah. Well, ma'am, that's the closing. That is the closing. Y'all heard it. Okay. So thank you again, Dr. Tega, for being on the show today. We really have enjoyed, I've really enjoyed this conversation. And this will be the first episode for season 12. So I wanted to start with the heart of the matter. And so I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank my audience for tuning in to Everything But the Lesson Plan, where we talk about the parts of education that truly shapes lives. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a teacher who needs permission to rest. Because the more we pour into ourselves, like Doc just said, the stronger our future becomes. And as always, keep thriving.